This week in Jamaica Now, Jamaica under hurricane warning. The slow-moving storm Melissa is expected to make landfall on Tuesday as a major system.
If you live on gully banks, in river courses, if you live in areas that were flooded during Beryl, expect that this will happen again.
The government is urging persons in low-lying and flood-prone areas to be prepared to leave. And the rush to prepare for the effects of Tropical Storm Melissa, empty shelves at shops and supermarkets, and long lines at gas stations. I'm Jovan Johnson, and this is Jamaica Now. Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness declared Jamaica a threatened area under the Disaster Risk Management Act as Tropical Storm Melissa approaches the island. The declaration was issued on Friday on the advice of the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management and the local government ministry. The declaration gives the government authority to implement protective measures to safeguard lives and property. That includes evacuation orders. At the same time, Industry Minister Auburn Hill has signed a trade order prohibiting price increases on essential goods including food, water, medicine and emergency supplies for the duration of the threat period. Offenders could face fines of up to $1 million. Dr. Holness says the move will allow the government to act swiftly to protect citizens and critical services, warning that there will be zero tolerance for price gouging. Now, earlier on Friday, the Prime Minister said the government's machinery is ready to deal with the effects of Tropical Storm Melissa. He urged Jamaicans to take the threat seriously.
If you live on gully banks, if you live in river courses, if you live in areas that were flooded during Beryl, expect that this will happen again, that there will be flooding. Take the necessary measures. I have not yet said evacuate, but if we declare a disaster, evacuation orders will be in effect, and that will be, as I said, within another few hours we should be able to declare that. But I'm putting everyone on notice. If you look on the map there, you will see that we have already scoped out the areas that are at risk. We will publish those, and we will call up the names of the communities to say, be prepared, be alert. In terms of transportation for evacuation, the Ministry of Transport is already prepared. The JUTC buses are already alerted to the need for evacuation, so we will provide some amount of public transportation. If it becomes necessary, the toll roads will be open to allow persons to move more quickly and safely. So we are prepared in that regard as well, and we encourage persons, if you are called upon to be evacuated, take the opportunity and leave the area.
Now, the authorities have warned that Tropical Storm Melissa is expected to make landfall Tuesday as a major hurricane. They say it will bring devastating floods. The unpredictable system has been moving slowly across the Caribbean Sea, lingering south of Jamaica. Now, earlier on Friday, Principal Director of the Meteorological Service of Jamaica, Evan Thompson, said while Melissa's interesting drift east-southeast takes it away from Jamaica, this could be very short-lived.
The latest is that the projection for the tropical storm is that it will become a hurricane. It's likely to do that by tomorrow, and then we are expecting
tomorrow
that as it moves
Saturday.
Tomorrow meaning on Saturday, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And it is expected to continue moving more or less toward the west until it is south of Jamaica, directly south of, say, central Jamaica, and then it should start moving more to the north. So at that time, we are expecting that it will rapidly intensify. It could likely become a major hurricane by Monday. And then through Tuesday, we are expecting that it will actually be moving across the island from south to north, central Jamaica, and then exiting later on Tuesday and moving toward Cuba. So that's the latest projection of the system. We're looking at a major hurricane making landfall over Jamaica. The last landfall for us as a storm would have been in 2021, I think it was, with Tropical Storm Grace. Mm-hmm. Before that, Hurricane Sandy moved across the island in 2012. So those are the latest landfalling systems that we've had. Well, with landfall, all that means is that the eye or the center of the system is expected to move across the coast. And that usually means that if you're living on the land, residents will experience the strongest winds from the system because those would normally surround the eye. And you'll also be experiencing winds from two opposite directions because the eye is really where the change of direction takes place. If you're on the eastern side, you would see things, you will see systems, or you'll experience the wind moving from the south. But if you're on the western side, you would be experiencing the wind coming from the north. So that is the kind of, and so you have both sides of the eye with double effect of those strongest winds impacting the land. I hope I've made that clear. It is expected to be at least a Category 4. I'm not too sure if it would have transitioned to a 5 by then, but at least Category 4. It should have moved past Category 3 by then.
Yes.
The strongest landfall might have been Gilbert in 1988. Hurricane Charlie, that has been mentioned a lot, about 1951. It isn't very clear what the category would have been because it was before, we were measuring with that kind of accuracy. But it could have also been a Category 3 moving across the island.
Right.
Possibly a Category 4, but more information is suggesting it might have been a 3. The most recent one would have been Gilbert in 88 as a Category 3, but a major Category 3.
The Met Office says tropical storm force winds are already extending up to 220 kilometers or 140 miles from the center. Melissa is expected to dump heavy rainfall across Jamaica with between 12 and 16 inches projected for eastern parishes through the weekend before spreading to other parishes during the course of next week. This could cause widespread flooding and landslides with the system moving westward next week. Up to Friday evening, Melissa was southeast of Kingston, but moving slowly toward the north, near 4 kilometers or 2 miles per hour. It was packing winds of almost 100 kilometers or 65 miles per hour, with a rapid intensification expected. Now, Jamaicans have been rushing to prepare for Tropical Storm Melissa. Shopping centres and major supermarkets such as Megamart and PriceSmart outlets were packed as Jamaicans stocked up on food, water and batteries. Long lines formed at gas stations across the country. The government switched public schools to online teaching from Thursday. And as Tropical Storm Melissa edges closer to Jamaica, some residents in Western Westmoreland are expressing unease. In Bay Road, resident Sharon says she's worried but is trusting God that the effects will not be bad. Pointing to the rising waters along the main road, Sharon said the flooding had already started before the storm even arrived. She explained that blocked drains and poor road conditions continue to worsen the situation, saying there's nowhere for the water to run off, forcing motorists to turn back. In Manchester, some residents of Alligator Pond are fearful of a repeat of the devastation left by Hurricane Beryl last year. That storm passed south of Jamaica but devastated many communities along the south coast, especially in Manchester and St. Elizabeth. Dozens of homes and roads were destroyed and many communities left marooned. The Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management ODPEM has indicated that about 881 shelters are on standby across the country. Acting Director General of ODPEM, Richard Thompson, gave the update on Friday.
We have in excess of 881 shelters currently in country. To date, all shelter mechanism has been placed on standby, and we have out in St. Thomas one shelter that has been activated where there is one elderly gentleman so far is in that shelter. So we continue to ensure that for those critical communities, as you can see, that projection which is there, we have mapped in terms of the passage of the storm what we consider to be some critical parishes. Not that the entire island is not critical. We are planning for the entire island, but given the projected passage that was presented by Mr. Thompson from the Met Office, we have those parishes of high concern. St. Mary, Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and Hanover. And so we have mapped those critical areas for concern. And within that concern as well, high on that is the possibility of evacuation.
Meanwhile, on Wednesday, the authorities started work to clear the Sandy Gully in Kingston and St Andrew. It is the largest drainage system in the corporate area. Works Minister Robert Morgan, Member of Parliament for St Andrew Western, Anthony Hilton, and Director of Communications at the National Works Agency, Stephen Shaw, were present as heavy-duty equipment cleared mountains of silt, trees and other debris just under the Spanish Town Road Bridge in the vicinity of Riverton City and Weymouth Drive. Mr. Morgan told reporters that the measure is aimed at protecting one of the country's major assets and to ward off the ripple effects if it is damaged as a result of what the forecasters are predicting could be hurricane conditions. MP Hilton voiced concern for residents and businesses along the gully. Meanwhile, Minister Morgan disclosed this week that $4 billion has been earmarked to rehabilitate the Sandy Gully and other key drainage infrastructure in Kingston, St Andrew and St James. He says the multi-billion-dollar project is now under review by the Public Investment Management System, which assesses major capital developments. For the impending storm, the NAA Communications Manager Stephen Shaw said some $200 million in emergency funds has been allocated to the agency for drain cleaning works in communities along the southern section of Jamaica. Mr. Shaw says communities in the parishes of St. Thomas, St. Andrew, Kingston, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester and St. Elizabeth are being specifically targeted. Additional works are also being done in the parishes of St. Anne, St. Mary and Hanover. And as Jamaica braces for Tropical Storm Melissa, Jamaica Public Service JPS, the country's main power provider, is warning citizens to prepare for possible outages. On Thursday, JPS President and Chief Executive Officer Hugh Grant told Jamaicans that the lights are going to go out.
Let us be frank. We have faced multiple weeks of significant rainfall. What does that mean for us? The ground is saturated. Saturated ground combined with increased rainfall in the order of what I'm hearing 6 to 12 inches, plus winds sustained in the order of 50 miles per hour, increases the likelihood of power outages. So I'm standing here to let you know the lights are going to go out. So let us plan for the lights going out. With that being said, we are committed, we are positioned, we are resourced, and we stand ready to respond. I also have confidence in the work that we have done in regards to our infrastructure improvement.
And Mr. Grant warned that electricity bills will likely be increased based on the use of more expensive fuel sources.
In full transparency, I will say some of the potential pressures that a bill has is based on the change in the fuel mix that we have during storms. I just got a report a while ago that the floating storage regasification unit, that's the unit that supplies our liquefied natural gas, due to the threats and the adverse weather conditions, they're going to go ahead and demobilize. What does that mean? We're no longer going to have access to liquefied natural gas at some of our facilities and unavailability of a particular unit that's only able to burn liquefied natural gas that's controlled by the independent power producers. So what that means for us then is units that are able to burn the alternate diesel oil, those units will burn alternate diesel oil. The reality is that's a more pricey commodity than liquefied natural gas, so that could potentially have upward pressures on the bill. In addition to the reality that now that you have some of the more efficient combined cycle units that are unavailable who would burn gas, you're now burning less efficient units that burning heavy fuel oil, and that could also have upward pressures on the bill. So the reality is, due to the fuel mix, independent power producers being unable to burn alternate diesel oil, and the need to burn less efficient fuel to ensure the security of the grid, and what you call security dispatch, there could be potential upward pressure. The good news is we're working with the OUR and other agencies to minimize that potential impact.
Earlier, JPS said overseas line workers, including a team from St. Vincent, arrived on Thursday to assist with the company's storm response plan. The JPS was heavily criticized over the near 2-month wait for power restoration in areas of several parishes following the passage of Hurricane Beryl in July last year. And Petrojam says Jamaica has more than 2 weeks' supply of fuel and 10 days' supply of liquified petroleum gas in reserve as the country braces for Melissa. The state-owned refinery says its storm contingency plan has been activated to ensure fuel distribution continues smoothly across the island over the coming days. Acting General Manager Colin Barnett says the country's energy supply resiliency remains strong, with teams ramping up deliveries from Kingston and Montego Bay to maintain steady supplies to critical services and the wider public. Petrojam's business continuity management team is also on standby to implement additional measures if needed. Both of Jamaica's international airports remain open as the island braces for Tropical Storm Melissa. Operators of the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston and the Sangster International in Montego Bay say they are monitoring the storm's path and prioritizing passenger and staff safety. Travelers are being urged to check with their airlines before heading to the airports, as some Caribbean Airlines flights between Montego Bay and Fort Lauderdale have been cancelled through the weekend. Both airports say updates on flight operations will be posted on their social media pages and official websites. And telecommunications provider Flow said it has suspended all service disconnections and giving prepaid customers extra mobile data as Jamaica braces for the impact of the storm. And that's it for this edition of Jamaica Now, your weekly review of the big news stories. Send us your comments at onlinefeedback@gleanerjm.com. Follow us on X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram at Jamaica Gleaner, and on Facebook at Gleaner Jamaica. Like this video on our YouTube page, turn on your notifications, and subscribe today. I'm Jovan Johnson. Be safe.